Hello, Cardstack community. My name is Chris C. I'm the founding director of the Cardstack project, coming to you from the land of the Web3. Today, I'm joined by LTD.INC's founder and CEO, Daryl Kelly, to talk to us about the amazing new space of thinking about NFT and commerce and goods and everything that comes blurring and blending physical and digital. So it would be a very interesting topic to kind of put more substance and meats and bone and atoms around the bits of the idea of NFT. So welcome, Daryl.
Hi, thanks for having me on, Chris. I really appreciate being here.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic because it's something that has been, I've worked in the past on both NFT project. I actually built one of the first NFT marketplace in the Bitcoin blockchain in a project called Monograph, which is actually in Wikipedia about NFT. And then part of the exploration of what to do with the technology, we actually have a lot of conversation with brands about limited edition way early on before CryptoKitties, so people don't know what it is. And it seems like that idea is now becoming real. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the space and what make you spark this idea of doing LTD.INC and the technology and the processes around them?
Absolutely, yeah. So like most people, I come from a more traditional background. I'm actually traditionally based in Barbados, which is a tiny Caribbean island, but believe it or not, it has this huge influence with crypto and Bitcoin. It was really popular in 2015. And yeah, so I've come more from like real estate, insurance, finance, and I had one of the, everyone's got one of those friends that kept speaking about Bitcoin, and I just kept ignoring it until finally 2016. I said, I'm going to lock myself away in my apartment. I'm not coming out till I get it.
Right.
I literally went into my apartment. I spent the weekend. I came out Monday morning. I was like, wow, this is going to change the world. And from then on, I couldn't unknow what I knew. And I basically just from there positioned myself to keep learning, reading, trying to find out where I fit into the space. And yeah, that was about 2 or 3 years. Fast forward 2020, I launched my first blockchain company called the Bitcoin Movement, which was an art and apparel platform dedicated to working with artists and brands to create capsule collections, apparel, fine art, that kind of stuff around the brand of Bitcoin. And as we all know, the Bitcoin brand is decentralized. Anyone can do anything with it creatively, or, there are no copyright restrictions or anything. So we really enjoyed that. So it was under that company that we launched one of the world's first streetwear collections connected to the blockchain via NFC technology. And we did it with a UK wrapper. We did 300 pieces, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, and we built our own bespoke phone app, which allowed, gave that to our collectors. So we did 300 pieces, they all sold, it went great. And essentially,
do they still exist? Is the 300 pieces still circulating? Do you have some of them?
Yeah, I still have some. Yeah, I mean, they're sold. I mean, they're definitely. I've got my own that I took from it: hat, hoodie, and a T-shirt. And the rapper we work with, Zuby, we gave him a bunch because he just worked so well with us. He's like a really big voice on Twitter, and he loved the idea. And back then, this is 2020. NFTs weren't massive then at all. They were still quite underground. We were calling the connection between the NFC chip and the physical piece a blockchain transaction ID, not an NFT at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a proof of concept, test the tech, make sure there was a demand for it, make sure it was robust, and it went really well. And so from there, we just, built on top of that tech, and essentially LTD.INC was born. And we spent the next 2 years, we've been building for the last 2 years on top of that. The idea is then to open up that technology to a wider market, not the Bitcoin niche, but rather established top tier artists, creators and brands, and work with big established artists, trusted artists that kind of want to enter the space in a thoughtful way. So not just there's a lot of rug pulls going on, there's a lot of this kind of fast cash action going on, and I don't it's going to wreck the space, but it's there's that everywhere. But we're here to kind of onboard those Web2 brands, clients in a thoughtful way, and look at how they can step into the space and launch something with a tangible and a digital product. And our NFC tech is kind of infused in between that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that brands, despite the whole ups and downs of crypto and the kind of like euphoria and the lull that we see, seems pretty steady in their kind of announcements and work on like let's experiment. They may have dedicated people on certain jobs that just continue working on their personal interests and strategic directions of taking that idea of scarcity, which Supreme and other brand has done really well without blockchain, and see, hey, maybe this is something that can, through the technology, be more pervasive. What brands and what type of kind of adopter, not in the blockchain space, but like kind of stepping in, do you think in this phase of our growth of this field around consumer goods and blockchain seems to be more at the forefront and more importantly, gaining traction?
Yeah, so I think while we're in this bear market, as I don't know if you're on Twitter that much, but that's the kind of chatterbox of the whole space. We're all building, aren't we? Everyone's got their heads down. There's been a huge burst of the bubble. And this is the right time for brands to be stepping in. And I would say, the days of PFP drops, 10,000 drops, I'm sure they'll continue, but we're now shifting away from that wholly digital PFP kind of model. And
right.
Collectors are demanding something different. They want real utility from their products. And I believe the physical that brands will bring into this space will be the kind of evolution. That's the next step. As the NFT market matures and NFT collectors build their portfolios, because I think there's probably less flipping now than there probably ever has been, because there's so much diamond handing going on. People have really got their prize NFTs and they're holding on to them. And now they're, building on top of those. They want to find ways to live amongst those NFTs, like putting artwork on their wall or putting that NFT on a hoodie or whatever that might be. And so it's kind of branching out into this physical space. So I think that's definitely the next big step for brands stepping in. And look at Artifact and Nike, for example. They've started as a Web3 native Artifact. Nike bought them, and now they've just done this really amazing NFC infused hoodie collection. So they're kind of really pioneering the way when it comes to bridging the digital and the physical world.
So when you talk about like the physical NFT, the physical aspect of bridging of it, some people say, oh, we got to put like actual artwork on NFT in trading, or like gold bars that are being traded. And there's another aspect of it is less about the physical asset being represented on chain and more of the off-chain correlation with culture and meaning and belonging being the real thing, and not necessarily the do you have legal title, and you look at it anytime you want type of thing. There's a group of like legalistic engineer, let's call them, right, to try to make this real. But there's a certain aspect of like, I don't really know, but it feels really good, right? It feels really important. What is your sense of where you guys sit, and which one do you think will actually is the one that's going to cross over first?
Well, I think there's a space for both. Firstly, like in all of our drops, we always do a physical tier, we do a digital tier as well, because we're fully appreciate the fact that this space was birthed. It's been grown up by artists, tech heads and artists, and they're the ones in 2019, 20, and 21 who were really out there putting out their one-of-one arts and playing with the blockchain and creating art out of it. Essentially, so that's where this has all come from. Yeah. So they are really interested in the digital NFT, digital asset style. And so, almost adding on a physical component is making it more clunky. It's not really the kind of the way that it should be. And I get that when we add a physical component into a project, it does, NFTs otherwise, this very frictionless, seamless global asset that can move across the world with ease from wallet to wallet with zero friction. When we add what we add on top, there becomes, clunky. It definitely poses problems. But then it's inevitable that for the next stage of adoption, a tangible asset that is backed by a digital token is going to be a really attractive way to get people to move into the space. So rather than like trying to get people through OpenSea to buy, first open a MetaMask wallet, then buy Ethereum, then make a transaction on OpenSea is quite lengthy. But if you can go around and actually go into a store like Supreme and scan a hoodie, buy it and walk out with that hoodie, and then you get a NFT sent to your wallet, that's a really cool way of getting more people into the space.
Yeah. So, when we talk about the experience of OpenSea, it really is, looks like eBay, but the language that's being used and the culture is a trading culture, right? It's like the bidding and thing is really about speculative profit. If you go to like a D2C store, you go to like a secondhand goods store, there's a little bit more of the idea that this is not just a financial instrument. And, yes, things can go up in value. Do you see alternate marketplaces coming up? Is that what you're building? Do you think the interface, what we show to the user, affects their engagement with the medium? In this case, physical and ultra rare digital NFT? Do we need more diversity of UX?
Definitely. I mean, like OpenSea pioneered a space. They are the eBay of NFTs. You've got moving on from there. You've got Super Rare, which then took a more curated position and did a marketplace that's still focused on digital only NFTs, but they just curated it in a much more artistic way as well. And then I would say we are almost the next phase of that. We are Super Rare, like one of ones, but for bespoke physical plus digital collections. Mm-hmm. And yes, I believe there's space for a lot more of this kind of options and ways that we can interact with NFTs, and it will go. For us, we've got 3 or 4 goals. We work with clients to create and launch kind of thoughtful physical digital NFT collections with established artists, and so with that we're trying to create an ecosystem that collectors can come to and know that they're getting a NFT from a reputable brand or artist. That creators can come to and create and know that they're going to tap into a ready-made collector base that want to collect real-world assets that are backed by an NFT. The second one is empowering creators. So with our tech, we can empower creators by building royalties into the physical product, which has never been done before. So imagine the art world, or imagine Nike, for example, who launched these capsule kick trainer collections. They sell out in minutes. They've done well. The marketing was great. It was a successful drop. But then they go on the secondary market and they 10x. But Nike can never attach to that price appreciation. But with our technology, if Nike were to do that collection with us, when that trainer sale happens on the secondary market for 10 times the primary price, they get let's say 10% royalty delivered immediately back into their wallet for that sale. And so we're now empowering creators by allowing them to stay connected to their artwork, to their IP, to their portfolio of art, whatever that may be, in perpetuity. So now artists don't have to go running around trying to create masses of work for their entire life. They can just build a thoughtful collection, engage with not 1 million fans, but 1,000 super fans. And so with that, that's really one of our main objectives. And then thirdly is empowering the collector. And so and what I mean by that is by through technology in our phone app, when a collector has purchased a product from our website, they immediately get the NFT deposited into their MetaMask wallet, but then they get the physical piece shipped in the post. And then essentially they take out our phone app and they can scan the NFC chip immediately and scan it for authenticity. And so with that, we're empowering that creator and collector at the same time, because the collector now knows they've got a verified product. They can engage and interact with it. So it offers a much more interactive and kind of elevated product experience. So yeah, we're trying to bolt on top of that whole eBay OpenSea kind of model with a much more interactive experience and kind of elevating I wouldn't say elevating the NFT space. That sounds pompous, but I mean, just going the next level and trying to give people a really cool way to interact with NFTs and, yeah, like I say, empower both sides.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you think you guys, I see that you're supporting the existing wallet standard. There are some NFT marketplaces that say we need our own blockchain, we need our own wallet, it's our own ecosystem, it's our own login scheme. How do we create a situation, or at least you're thinking about, where you tap into the existing infrastructure, whether it's Wallet Connect, whatever, but still provide that better user experience and then these kind of additional function for physical good verification? How do you navigate from a product point of view, like a web product point of view, that reuse but also revise and improve? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so I mean, you made a good point there. You've got 2 choices: you build your own wallet, or you tap into the vast network of, let's say, MetaMask. They've built a good product. It is the go-to standard. And so for us, we're not going to try and compete with that at all. And I think plugging ourselves into that is probably the best model for us and our clients who are launching collections with us. We would be doing them a disservice by trying to develop something that people have to come and then download, and maybe it's glitchy because it's not backed by the masses of capital that, let's say, MetaMask have. What I would say is MetaMask and other brands need to fast forward on developing their UX and UI. The amount of problems that have been caused just by them not having certain features, Bored Apes being stolen, all this kind of stuff, it could have been avoided by just another button on the wallet. So I think the next 2 years are going to be really important and really productive, because the space is matured, the VCs are in, and so what comes with that, there's a lot you give up for that as well. But what comes with that as progress is a lot of extra utility, a lot of professionalism and all the other things that come with just a space, onboarding more people and being led by, proper, establishments.
Yeah, it's challenging for us, even as we're thinking about how to onboard users to our kind of, we're more of a software ecosystem, is that, most users who use SaaS apps is like, well, what does it mean I have to fund the wallet to sign up? It's exactly. Kind of a crazy thing. And getting tokens or ETH into a wallet is not super easy, right? Because you have to jump through hoops that the traders have to go through. But all you want to do is like, can I just interact with this thing, right? Or even buying a product, or you talk about something, hopefully low end from $30 to $5,000. That's something you can use a credit card to pay for, and you can't really use credit card to buy crypto. So buying something between that range on crypto is like 4 times harder.
Yeah, I would say OpenSea and MoonPay. MoonPay is they're our payment gateway provider as well. So we're lucky to manage to connect with them and have them power all of our APIs. They're doing great things, and I think supporting companies like that who are offering, they offer a credit card purchasing system with OpenSea. They don't do it for everybody because they need a certain amount of volume. But certainly brands like that, tech software like that will help the space grow a lot quicker, because if you go to OpenSea now, you can purchase an NFT with a credit card through just the function they have. And so I think in the next 2 or 3 years, when it becomes less expensive for MoonPay to give that out to just anybody like us, because we're a high ticket item NFT marketplace, not a large volume marketplace. And so we're not quite the perfect fit for them yet. But I think as time goes, it will be extended, that same experience and functionality, and that will just make it so much easier for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that we have a lot of composability in terms of the back end, the smart contract, things talking to each other. But what you're really talking about recently is the composability of the user experience. And it still is one of those things you have to be big enough, has to be worth their while for them to have to call and do the integration and do the UX journey. Yeah. All that stuff that's pretty, kind of like, typical of a Web2 partnership thing. Therefore, the winner takes all, because they have the, of course we'll integrate Google, but am I going to integrate with a smaller, SaaS product? Probably not. So everybody's kind of using scraps to like tie things together with duct tape.
Exactly.
You might call it Zapier or Airtable, whatever. I mean, it's just duct tape to put it together. And it's great. There's a business for small business duct tape. But the really good integration with Apple, you gotta say, hey, Tim, and Apple campus and make a deal. And I feel like we can't perpetuate that. So a lot of what we work on in Cardstack is could we make the front end as composable as the back end, right? So there's a lot of like widgets that works well enough in like the MoonPay and then Wire, we integrate Wire, but it can be so much better if this really becomes Lego block the same way smart contract becomes Lego block. But there's definitely an infrastructure components to make that happen. That's what we're working on. But our hope is that, once you have the infrastructure to make it happen to do composable UI, that we can kind of just piece together both on-chain, off-chain tools to make the user journey good. And that's just simply isn't the case today.
No, they will get there. We're basically at the same time as, the equivalent of like the internet in 1995, or 2000. We're so early, and I know everybody says that, but it really is. NFTs are barely scratching the surface where we are today, and that's why we love being where we are right now, because the physical digital narrative is just bubbling. It's just building. And I feel like we're all kind of at the very start of this next stage of it, I would say, the next stage of NFTs.
Yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit about another trend that it may be intersecting or dovetailing with the kind of NFT trend. We have all these direct-to-consumer company that came out in the last 5 years, funded like tech company operating like non-profit making retail businesses with unfortunate retail stores location that is like burning a hole in the pocket. But it does shows us that these new type of like smaller brands, more culturally aligned brands are appealing to people. They may not be great business. Do you have a sense whether the movement of kind of going to the niches of the culture and then finding kind of a market around them, finding like-minded people put it together, which is, by the way, what the D2C people were trying to do in terms of their the idea. Do you see that dovetailing into NFT? Is there a lesson there to be learned about how we can make, because D2C companies are not super successful. Some of them are actually pretty bad. What do you see in that kind of is that a lesson or is it an opportunity?
So would you be referring to brands like, I don't know, the hundreds, for example, as a niche brand
Yes.
entering the
Yeah,
space. Is
yeah.
that kind of, yeah, I mean, I think that's where it starts. It is the cultural leaders, it is the underground independents who are driving the space. And that's kind of where we are focusing as well. We've just done a project with Wrangler. And
Yes.
I mean, they couldn't be the opposite of what we just said, but they are the Goliath denim brand, market leaders.
Right.
But what they did was really cool. Like, they didn't jump in to do this huge digital only kind of, how can we make as much money as we can kind of project. They went very thoughtful. We did a one-of-one project around a denim suit that was infused with NFC chip. It was made for Leon Bridges. It just went on for auction 2 days ago, actually. And yes, it's, for them, that was all, they built a project around the culture of Wrangler and the culture of Leon Bridges and what that means to them as a brand, as a collaboration. And yeah, when you look at our client pipeline, it is all independent brands. We've got some, don't get me wrong, we've got some big names coming out and we're excited to be able to announce those. But yes, it's taken us, some smaller independent brands who get the space now. They understand it. They want to play in it. They want to experiment. And I think that's a lot of where it comes from. The smaller independents are much more flexible to experiment. There's less on the line. And so, yeah, the Bobby Hundreds and their kind of outlook is just, okay, well, this is such a cool experimental space right now. Let's do what we can. Let's just do all these kind of really cool stuff. So, yeah, I think, it's definitely going to be led for a little bit longer in this space, but the big brands are coming. I think every brand has realized they now need a Web3 strategy in some way. And I believe, unless you're an online strictly business, if you're anything to do with retail or out in the real world, you're going to have a physical component to it. That will be part of your strategy.
And I think, the physical component is actually pretty hard to do right. So you see some brands that have that physical figure out, iterating on digital, but you see the digital brand that is iterating on physical, getting on store, really getting wiped out because it's not easy to run 20 stores around the world, right?
No.
And that can really burn a hole in your balance sheet in somewhat literary thing. Do you see kind of retail or this type of like in-person experience to be important in the NFT marketplace? I know that Solana, for example, some of the people in the ecosystem open up like actual Solana boutiques in like high-end shopping malls. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. What do you even do there, right? But do you see not only just the physical in terms of the goods itself? What is your sense of, is the in-person experience important?
I think it's a huge part of the next phase as well. I think crypto has always been this underground, quite scary, quite dark place. And thankfully, because of NFTs, it took it out of its, scary place for everybody and said, oh, well, look, that's just art that is backed by a token. And so it made it very easy to comprehend and easy to use, although we've just said how hard it is to get actually on board. But for those who are willing to take that little step, it's actually quite easy to understand. Art on a blockchain is just an NFT. Okay, cool. Now, what's the next stage? It's going to be, NFTs have kind of taken it, I suppose, to the stage that is ready for mass adoption. And so having an in-world experience is most definitely coming. We've just done that live auction I mentioned with Wrangler and Leon Bridges. That went live. The physical suit was unveiled on stage. Leon was performing at the event. It was in Brooklyn. That was all, focused around a Wrangler event, but all about NFT icon holders. So we had a first tier that was digital only. It gave people that was a ticket to the event. So they all gone to New York, Brooklyn. They've gone to this event. That's just like scraping the surface as far as how NFTs are going to proliferate into the real world. But what you just said there about how Solana having in-store or actual stores in the real world, that is most definitely kind of going to be a common thing I think we see. So brands that are born in the native Web3 space are going to be the future brands and the future festivals and interactions and kind of experiences of the next 10 years. And so, there's so much creativity, there's so much, I would say money flying around, so much kind of happening that is going to come into the real world. Like, look at Doodle's activations, look at Ape Fest, all these kind of things. They're going to, Ape Fest could do its own festival now, and I'm sure they could clear 100,000 people if they wanted. They couldn't do it in New York, at the way they do it now, but they could branch off now and hold their own festival, and they'd get more than just the 10,000 apes and the 20,000 mutants. They'd get a whole load of other people who have got excited by the culture of Bored Apes. And so what they've done is they bust straight through that community that is immediate and holders and gone into kind of mass pop culture. And so, people like that, brands like that will, pioneer the path to in real world experiences and kind of experiences like shopping and brands.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of talent that is in the more traditional world of marketing and events and stuff like that are starting to see that the special sauce they need to make their thing happen may be this thing, but they also bring a wealth of experience of making something, let's say, there's a non-cringe, right? Like it takes some time to like make it non-cringe. And I think we're kind of crossing that cringe boundary. Like I'm okay with cringe because it means that we're doing it. It's like, it's like bombing on stage is the absolute rite of passage for a comedian on their way up to your Netflix special, right? And I feel like we have, as an industry, bombed on the cringe department, but it's getting past that line. Like there are things like, well, that's pretty cool, right? Yeah. That's starting to have some meaning and some like, I can talk about it without feeling like, well, it's early. It was like, no, it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell your friends, you can tell your family about it now because it's like, it's actually quite respectable. And I think like so that's the reason I started Bitcoin movement originally. I was a big Bitcoiner. So I started out, I was actually a bit of a maxi. I was very dog-headed about sovereignty and, decentralization big time. And that's what drew me in, but that's great because I got a really good education about central banking, the Fed, all this kind of stuff, what is all around us, which I think everyone needs to understand if you're going to succeed in this world. And so, yes, the idea for us was I fell in love with Bitcoin essentially, and I was trying to find ways to not show that outward necessarily, but help other people grow the brand of Bitcoin, because back then it was just seen as this like financial instrument when actually it was much cooler than that. It's like we dubbed it the currency of freedom, because it's kind of this symbol of sovereignty and you can cross borders with it. And it's really just helpful for people under tyrannic, rulings and all this kind of stuff. There's all these angles of how it's very helpful. And so we worked with artists, we'd go, hey, I love your art. Do you know about Bitcoin? Could we do a collaboration together? And they do this cool piece of art and then we put it on t-shirts and hoodies. And then we reach out to our, Twitter audience at that point and their audience. And that's how it all started. It was all taking that cringe and saying, well, I wouldn't wear that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would I wear? So I got an artist. We did 21 Bitcoin designs because that was 21. Yeah. And that was my first collection when I launched the Bitcoin movement. It was 21 t-shirt designs because I couldn't get anyone to work with me at the time because no one knew who I was or the brand, and no artist really knew what Bitcoin was back then. So it was only after we launched that we then got some interest, and then I started working with real brands and artists, and we started growing those collections. But it was all about, okay, well, I love this space, but I'm not going to wear that cheesy hoodie or thingy. So I want to create something that I think other people are going to wear too.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see that the Bitcoin brand being a permissionless brand and anybody who wants to use it, can make their own meaning. And then we're seeing kind of the corporate IP version of NFT being debated. Some people say, hey, owners have, and some people say owners don't have, or owner of an NFT don't have rights. A lot of the early work that we did in a commercial version of Monograph, which was like a Bitcoin anchored NFT marketplace, we settled on Stripe because it's early, it's before we had anything else. But the token transfer were real with wallets. And the thing we realized was that there's a lot of choices, right? You can say that, no, this is really like Creative Commons. Like, that's a choice an artist can make. Or an artist will say, hey, why don't you figure out how you can take this character and make it something, and I want a royalty for it. And that's just two different ways of engaging with the market. And so I think we're going to end up seeing all of them. I mean, in our early app, we have like all this, what we call like offer create. It's almost like a legal document from LegalZoom. You can decide whether you want to turn on and off royalty and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And we show it to people. It's like, I didn't know this is what a legal agreement is. Yeah, legal agreement is just a bunch of checkboxes. You turn on and off. You pay a lot of money to put in a Word document, but it's basically a bunch of checkboxes. So we made a bunch of like really cool bubble that you can like tap on. But I think the permutation is way beyond this now. I think each project is coming with a different slice of reality. It's so exciting to see this proliferate and all the experiments. Like everything that can be tried seems to be being tried now, which is kind of cool.
Sure. I love it as well. And there are also CCO, it's fantastic to see other, I think it was Moonbirds went to CCO. there's a few really cool projects that have that kind of that method, and I think you'll see so much coming out of that kind of creative space. The Bored Apes are obviously extending IP to the ape owners, and you're seeing some crazy stuff in there. We've got some really cool projects we're launching with a big ape brand. So it's one of the apes, I can't say who it is just yet, but they're in music. They are really one of the bigger brands leveraging their ape IP in the entire space. Like let's say all the Bored Ape founders follow this particular brand, which is pretty cool because we're doing a 100-piece hoodie collection. We're infusing NFC tech into it. We're giving the collectors an NFT that comes with it. But the best thing is we're putting an unreleased track on the chip. So only these 100 people will get access to this track. It's unreleased. It will never be sold. It will never be given otherwise. And they can choose to do what they want with it. In terms of like, I don't know about the commercial side of it, but that they can share it, they can send it out, they can do whatever they want. It's their song. And so that's pretty groundbreaking. Cool. Yeah. So like 100 fans who love this DJ can go in and buy this hoodie and get this song that comes attached. You scan it with the phone and you play it, and it's your asset. So again, like so much.
It's so cool that you will get more stuff because you have this stuff, and you don't know what you're going to have until you have it. It's almost like playing a massively multiplayer game. It's like, I should acquire this sword because it may be useful later, and then it is useful later, and you can use that sword to kill the monster, and then the monster get you something else, right? So people are like accumulating. It's like, well, I don't know if this is going to become another airdrop criteria, right?
Yeah.
and that composability really is interesting, right? If you think about the most successful internet company we have right now in Web2, Facebook and Google, it's like narrowly targeting on age range and location and interest. But targeting on like what they possess, what they have gone through trouble, how long they've held it, it's a marketer's dream, right? Because you can literally get into the head of the person that will hold on to this thing through the bear market and say, you know what? We should mint to them, right? Because they're the people who are diamond hands and whatever. So I don't think we have done the marketing dashboard app or SaaS tools for this type of stuff. But if the marketers see this, they're going to just turn off their Adobe shit and just like, this is the way I want to target. You know what I mean? It's such a great way of engaging.
Yeah, I think I've heard a couple of brands. I can't think of the names right now, but there's a couple of brands who are definitely doing or starting that kind of data analytics for Web3. Because like you say, wallet holding analytics, timeframes, price points, all these kind of things are insanely valuable to everybody, really. And I hope it stays somewhat decentralized, and it's just about building the interface and dashboard to collect the data and distribute it, because it would suck if that started to become...
The good thing is that the data for now, like until privacy and CK, actual privacy, zero knowledge proof technology becomes thing. Right now, we're using zero knowledge proof mostly as a prover, not as a privacy technology. That would be ZK. It's like the ZKing of the ZK, but that's a technical discussion for another day. But I'm actually hoping that the privacy stuff will come when it needs to, when it's about censorship, and I think we're already facing that. But from a engagement point of view, why give 60 to 80% of your marketing dollars to Facebook and Google just to target? Give it to your customers. Give it to the influencer, giving to the holders, giving to the promoters. It's such a better spend of our marketing budget from a brand and growth and point of view. So that's the part I'm most bullish about, is using the data that is existing on the blockchain to inform and redirect the experience. And to the degree we have composable UI on top of this thing, you can just be like given like non-spammy offer that you can engage further, almost like picking up an item in a game and see if you want to go into the quest, right? If you do, you might realize that everything you've done, people play this game for what, 300-400 hours, right? What you did in the 120th hour is unlocking these, and once you know that type of engagement is totally different than say, well, I saw an ad for Away, it kind of fits my brand, so I bought a suitcase. It's like, oh god damn it, no wonder that didn't work.
That's a really old school way as well. When we look back in 5 years, that would be like, are people still doing that?
They're still doing that. D2C just basically repeated that, just with less capital and more niche and shittier product, arguably.
Yeah, I think you see brands like Twitter, I suppose, they're probably the prime example, prime potential platform to to kind of develop their platform in that kind of way. Go a more user-centric mechanism where your users, who are your content providers, are the ones that are somehow rewarded for generating content for everybody else to then look at and share and interact with, as opposed to it being that Instagram, Facebook model where, the centralized owners own everything and, barely anybody else gets anything, but rather turning on its head. Now your content and your users are generating everything and getting rewarded for it. So I think it's only inevitable until one brand makes that so prominent that everyone's like, oh, fuck this. Sorry, excuse my language. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna leave this brand here because I'm just putting all my pictures up on Instagram and getting nothing back for it. So I'm going to do it here instead because they pay me in whatever coin that might be. For the rewards of interaction, engagement, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And it's, you can see that even the company that has these social graph to be able to do these things are stuck in the monetization model of people coming out of digital marketing that came out with a Madison revenue. They're trying to make all these complex social network as if they are into kind of like, well, there's more eyeballs you can filter. But I think NFT holdership and the whole token gating thing, which is the worst name ever for technology about giving permission to people. Right? Like giving opportunities. Like, why are we using the word gate when it's really about kind of a type of customer acquisition channel of delivery of value? So I think we have some words we need to iterate on in this industry to explain to marketers. It's like, this is the best targeting and these are the best customer acquisition channel you will ever find in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We actually had that same conversation internally. We created a campaign that we did with Wrangler, and it was called No Nonsense NFTs. And so basically it just, scrapping all the scary words that people get put off by now. I think it's been rinsed so much that when people hear the word NFT, they literally automatically turn. They're like, oh God. So no nonsense NFTs. And basically what that means is you're buying, you can't avoid using it in some way because people have to know they're going to get a digital asset with it. But you're just buying a hoodie, you're just buying a pair of jeans with Ethereum and you're going to get something physical. That we're still selling products at the end of the day. They just happen to be backed by the authenticity of an NFT. So there needs to be a shift and change in the lingo. It needs to go more mainstream. We need to drop all this scary tech talk because it's not doing anyone any good.
Absolutely. And then, we don't love the word Web3, but we like the fact that, we can talk about the web in the Web3. We can talk about this being an iteration and improvement on the technology we use. We know web app is taking over everything. If you look at the acquisition of Figma, it's like web app does Photoshop better than Photoshop does Photoshop, right? So the idea that the web being open programmable platform for delivery of user experience is nothing, right? Like, I think MetaMask is just one step of that process, the wallet, but most of what we call NFT and marketplace is actually web applications, right? It's things that are part of this tapestry of connections, and we're just helping with that connections in terms of data and value transfer. Instead of let's add a commission junction integration. It's like, it's 2022, people. We can do a little bit better than UTMs. And so again, this is my previous. I've worked on digital marketing technology in the past, and I really believe that the work that you're doing and stuff like that is just opening up new opportunity. And eventually we have to fill in the dashboards into it, and that's my job. But the bringing the brand on board so they demand these tools that's your job.
Yeah, exactly. And we love that. We get so much interest. I think Wrangler was a big help for us, being such a big traditional brand. Since then we've had just the phone's been off the hook, honestly. Our pipeline's booked till the end of the year. We've got some seriously big brands similar to Wrangler kind of exploring how they can also launch something thoughtful and not this huge, like 10,000 PFP type style, but actually well, we have this collection here that we sell in our stores. What can we do with that? But with NFTs, and that's kind of what we specialize in. It's like, okay, well, you don't have to try and reinvent yourself. You can just say, you create something here, put the NFC tech into it, embed exclusive content from the artist, from the creator, so that you can now, what you're offering more than you were before is just a more elevated experience with your, I hate the word customer as well these days. I think I love a collector, I love a community, and I think that's where Web3 is kind of pushing the boundaries. You're no longer, I hope we're no longer customers, but we're more part of the whole kind of brand journey. And
it's always been. I think if you look at the deep believer of any brand, like people who are like, I'm REI for life, those people build different. right? Like those people really drive that thing. And you can same thing about Nike people. You can same thing about watch people. You know, like the Audemars people, like are just different people than the, I don't know, Rolex people, right? So I mean, arguably Rolex people are really just want to be
I know what you mean,
AP people. So, but I think in every culture, whether it's car and stuff like that, the culture is so different. And I feel like NFT or the technology of Web3, and again, I have to look at it as a technologist's minds, right? We're tool makers, like, and we're like, you know, we're going to give tools to people and they're going to use it to build something that's reflective of their taste. I give the same tool to a Spanish developer building something in Madrid. It's going to be different than if it's Barcelona. It's going to be different than if it's in Singapore. It's going to be different than it's Tokyo. The architecture is different. The cultures are different. And I feel like what we want to do is to say, let each of these community express what makes sense for them, given the tools of scarcity, distribution, royalty, blah, blah, blah. But it will feel very different, the lived in spaces. And I want this not just on the metaverse. I wanted it in the metaverse. Yes, for sure. The digital world's important, but also in the real world. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you know, with this new space has just brought so much creativity back. You know, things were. It's just, I'm going to focus on the art world because I know that a little bit better than others, let's say. But the art world was on its knees. You know, there wasn't really a lot happening. There wasn't anything too original happening. I'm not like crapping on people's art. I think there's some really amazing artists out there. But this space is going to suck in every single artist. No one's going to be doing art in 10 years that doesn't have some form of NFT, either connected to it via NFT technology or backed by just a digital twin of it, whatever it is. There's going to be the merge. And so culture, Web3 is now the epitome of culture. It is sucking in every form of culture. And we can only hope as Limited Inc. to be a small part of that by working with brands to say, stop thinking about going that route, just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it lands and trying to make money. This is our time to carve out a better space thoughtfully and create something that's actually really original. And the one thing I love most about it is we're all here. There's a lot of firsts happening. It's now in this space there are firsts of kind again. You can do a first of a kind in art. You can do a first of a kind in fashion. Like infusing a song on a hoodie that is only accessible to the hoodie holder is, I would say, a first of a kind. It's a new way for people to access content and music. And so I'm just looking for creators who are looking to break the rules and, you know, get experimental and stop thinking about what they know about the old world or marketing in the old world and just get here and, get creative, really.
Yeah,
because it's all
creative.
Happening. This is a digital renaissance. That's where we are now. We're like at the beginning of the digital renaissance.
Absolutely. And you know, anybody who studied the Renaissance knows that the technology of the Renaissance and the architecture and the spaces is what allowed the Renaissance to happen, right? We only celebrate the artifacts, but the mechanism, the technology breakthrough that enables that is what we have. And we're just waiting for the creator and artist to come and use these tools we're creating, whether it's optics, whatever it might be, and say, you know what? Without optics, there's no Vermeer, right? Without Vermeer, there's no that kind of like, you know, explosion in realism or the fight against it again, right? Like so these things, you know, to me is just we're just making blue paint in the impressionistic period or prior to that, right? Like and so, you know, I'm adding some elements of it, you're adding something, but you know, we have to have that conversation. There needs to be patronage. You know, board ape owner, if they've done well, I want them to go and invest in artists, invest in the means of, you know, taking risks versus doing another kind of BS, you know, corporate, you know, gig as an artist to a commercial brand on a meaningless T-shirt reissue on fast fashion, right? Like, so let's do something more meaningful. Let's take some more risks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be creative. Awesome.
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I gotta say, this was really fantastic. I think I learned a lot about like what's on the front line then, and I am always very encouraged to see that, while the examples are few, they are profound. And it's not about how many examples you have and how many adoption, is whether those adoption example changes the narrative and create new possibility space and inspire people to take more risk. And it snowballs, right? Hopefully. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Translation is not easy. Taking your maximalism and turn it into a type of maximizing the reach of this thing, because the maximum is Bitcoin is limiting, right? But to maximize the reach of the idea that Genesis and Bitcoin, I came from Bitcoin as well, so I get that transition, but it's not contradictory. I think there's a lot of Twitter think that it's contradictory, isn't it? It's just an expansion of an idea.
The maxis that are still there won't, some of them will be there forever, and I respect the fight they're fighting to decentralize the financial system and reduce the control of central banking and the Fed of fiat currencies, which are inevitably going to fall apart. I respect that, but there's also this entirely fantastic programmable money over here on Ethereum, and a huge cultural creative burst that's just happening. And so it's I crossed over because I just couldn't resist the kind of creativity that was happening over here. And I was like, wow, it's insane what's going on. And I wanted to be a part of that journey and saw the opportunity to, that physical digital was always kind of on my mind. And I've always been a fan of NFC chips. I don't know why exactly, but they're fun. They were fun, like to interact with and, program and stuff. So just seeing that kind of bubble up. And to be honest with you, I didn't really collect or get into digital collecting until 2020, late 2020. I was overlooking the space because I was so focused on that physical. And then when I did a deep dive, I was like, okay, I have to know about this because, I'm about to enter the space with my own marketplace. And when it clicked and I understood did Bitcoin taught me about digital scarcity, created digital scarcity for the first time. But then I lost track of that and I went building this other business, Bitcoin Movement, and then I circled back around and then it re-clicked and I was like, oh, wow, digital scarcity and NFTs is going to be just insane. This is going to change every business model that exists. Middlemen are going to get shaken out. This is the future of everything. Business, creativity.
And hopefully the tools you build and maybe already happen becomes that clicking moment for other people. It's not, you don't need to send a Bitcoin transaction on chain on a self-custody trust minimized wallet to get that now. Exactly. And it's a different type of getting, it's we always say in technology, it's turtles all the way down, right? It's just, and that layer of abstraction we build up, and you have the iPhone because you have the PC of the PC because you're the mainframe, your mainframe because you have the programming languages that drove that. So my thinking here is that, we're lucky to be in a time where the iterations are happening in the world where we don't think that anything can get better anymore. They can only get worse. I'm not saying there's no perils of it, but if you experiment, you're going to find something, and that something may actually point us a new way. So
for sure.
Awesome.
Exciting.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been so enlightening to hear your story and your personal journey of both maximization, minimization, and maximization again of the potential of the Web3. And, we do this every Wednesday at 9 a.m. to talk to builders and creators and makers about their journey into building this Web3. And then thank you for joining us today as a community. And Daryl, so glad to talk to you. And then if one day someone needs some marketing SaaS too, you know who to call.
Definitely, I will do. And thank you for having me on the show. And it's been great hearing from you as well and understanding what you're up to as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, community, for your time and your attention. Until next time, take care.